Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the New Psalmist Baptist Church Virtual Voter Town Hall. Tonight's going to be an amazing night, but we want to get started with a question for you in the chat. Will you tell us as a warm-up question, what is one word to describe what the last month has been like for you? What's one word to describe what the last month has been like for you? We're going to warm up, and then we're going to hear directly from our bishop with prayer and welcome.
Well, Jada, I think everybody's thinking about that one question, and I think they have a variety of answers that go with that question. People have been through a lot, and there's a lot still on their plate, and we want to welcome everyone to our town hall on the voting season that is before us and the voting process. We take this very seriously. This is not something that we are playing with, that we are fooling around with. This is something that we are believing is one of the most critical and crucial things that we can do. We have a lot of people who have died that we might have this right to vote. And yet at the same time, some persons are wondering, should they vote? We wanted to call everyone together tonight because we want to impress upon you how important it is to go to the polls, that this is going to be an election unlike any other, but we have to be safe and do things in a safe way, and that we have leaders that are working to make sure that our votes count, our votes are counted, and that we have the kind of experience that we should have in casting our vote in this democracy. So I want you to bow your heads and win a word of prayer with me as we open tonight. Father, in the name of Jesus, we come before you in a trying time and a difficult moment. We need your help like never before. We need you to move in our midst. We need you to solve problems. But above all, we need you to grant us courage. We ask you to give us the courage to be able to deal with all that we hear and to be able to sort out the noise that we might do what you would have us to do. Now guide us in our talking, guide us in our thinking, guide us in all that we should deal with tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. Sharing with me tonight as co-moderator is Ojeda Hall, Reverend Ojeda Hall, one of our ministers and part of our SALT, our social action team. And she's going to share with us now part of our agenda, how we're going to go forward, because this is going to be an exciting night. And I want everybody to sit up. Now, if you have children in your family, in your home, in your space, bring them into where you are. They need to see and understand this system and this process and why voting is important. Ojeda?
Thank you, Bishop. We want you to be really clear about where we're going to take you by the end of tonight. We want every one of you, 100% of you, to have a solid voting plan for this election season. Notice I didn't say for November 3rd. I said for the election season. And October is for voting, and October is election month. Secondly, we want to get you information, new resources, and a new tool that we're debuting tonight for those who want to vote in person and early. And third, we want you to stay on because we've got a great call to action at the end. We've got some prizes to give away. I want to make sure that we thank our wider community, our church, and also our monitors in Facebook, in YouTube, and on the church's website. They will be dropping in links of the things that we're talking about all throughout tonight's virtual town hall. If you have questions, this is the time to start getting them together in your mind and on sheets of paper, and you don't have to wait. You can send them into the chat already. In fact, we already got some early questions from you, and we'll be answering those questions tonight. So we're going to hear first from our special guest. Then we're going to meet this new tool that we put together because God is always doing new things and he's given us a new tool. Then we're going to spend about 30 minutes with the great leaders of our region. And we're going to talk about how we're going to have safety at the polls. And then we're going to hear from an election expert, Ms. Nikki Charlson, who's part of the standards board, will talk about all of the tips and mechanics of voting. And then finally, we'll have tons of time for your questions and answers. And again, stay with us to the end because we've got some great prizes and surprises for you. Q&A, again, Q&A will work. Every moment of the town hall is a moment for Q&A. Some of those answers will be answered right in the chat, but many of them will be put and grouped into themes, and Minister Ryan Turner and I will make sure your questions get asked and answered. And if by chance we do not get to one of your questions, you can send it in to amen@newpsalmist.org, and we will make sure your questions get answered. Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you, Jada. And let me tell you, my wife and I have been working on our plan on how we're going to do and what we're going to do and how we're going to be ready for the election. But we've decided not to finalize our plan until we finish tonight. I want to make sure we have it right, that we do it right. And I want to make sure our vote gets counted. So we're waiting until after we finish everything tonight to know how we should go forward and what should be our next steps. We do have a special guest with us tonight. Special guest, one of our sitting senators. Whenever he hears that we're doing something, he never thinks it robbery to ask if he too can share with us. And so Senator Ben Cardin is with us. He's not running for election. Somebody might say, are you electioneering? No, he's not running for election. He is sitting in his seat. And so, Senator, thanks for coming to be with us tonight. And we want to offer you an opportunity to greet everybody that's sharing with us. You'll have to unmute.
Bishop Thomas, first of all, thank you so much for this program. It is so important. The New Psalmist Baptist Church, what you do for our community every day, we really, really appreciate. And I know the experts that you have on your panel tonight and the people that are going to give some really important information. Bishop Thomas, you know, there may be different views in our community. People might feel differently about what issues are important and which we should be talking about, or which candidates doing the right thing. So there may be division, and there is division in America, but there should be no division on our importance to get out and vote in this election. This election is critically important to America's future. Candidates couldn't have more different views and visions about America's future. It's our responsibility to vote. When you said every vote counts, let me just underscore that every vote counts. We all know that there's controversy surrounding this election. Whether it's legitimate or not is irrelevant at this point. But we know the more people that vote, the better we're going to be able to accept the results of this election. Mm-hmm. So every vote counts. Every vote's important. And we have to make sure that we not only have our plan to vote, but every person we can have contact with has that plan to vote. And in Maryland, we have alternate choices. We can vote by mail if you are concerned about COVID-19, or you want to reduce the numbers of people at the polls, or you want to make sure your vote is in because you don't know what's going to happen on election day. You can vote by mail. And you'll hear how you can do that safely and to make sure that your vote is counted. There's only a few more days that you can request a ballot by mail, but those days are still there. And then you have to make sure you get it back, and that'll be explained to you. You can drop it off at a drop spot, or you can put it in the mail. That'll be explained. You can do it that way. Or you can go to early voting, which starts October 26th. And we have more locations than ever. You can vote in any one of the county locations in the county in which you reside. Early voting, which is, again, a safe way to do it and make sure that your vote is counted. Or you can vote in election day. And that's a little bit different this year, and that'll be explained. It's not the traditional voting place that we've had. And that'll be explained where you can vote in the county and cast your vote on election day. And one more point. If you're not registered to vote today and you're eligible to vote, you can register on election day, same day registration, and you can vote. So the bottom line is, So many people have struggled for so many years to make sure we all have that right to vote. I lost a dear friend this year in John Lewis. The two of us were elected to the United States House of Representatives on the same day, and we became buddies and friends. He gave his life so that people would have the right to vote. We need to carry out his legacy. We need to protect the democratic institutions of our nation. And the way to do that is to participate. And the fundamental participation is to vote. So my message is simple. I'm proud to represent you. I thank you so much for what you're doing tonight. Let's get that message out, our individual plans, and let's help everyone in our community who's eligible to vote to make sure they get their votes casted by November 3rd. Thank you, Bishop. God bless.
Thank you, Senator. And in fact, let me just ask a question to all the folk who are sharing with us on whatever platform you are. And you can, if you're on the chats, you can just write in yes. How many of you have voted already in the election? How many of you have already voted? Amen. There are hands, couple hands going up. How many have already voted? Well, listen, more than 11.9 million voters across the country, 11.9, almost 12 million people have already cast their ballots in the November election as of Tuesday morning. And that's according to the US election data. 11 million is 9% of 139 million voters who cast their votes in 2016. Let me ask you this. Did you vote in the last election? Just raise your hand if you did, or put yes or no in that chat box if you voted in the last election. Well, listen, this is critical because we've got to make sure we're out there. 139 million actual voters cast their vote in 2016 out of 231 million eligible voters. Now, somebody's got to hear that. 139 million voted, but there were 231 million eligible. You heard our senator say, every vote counts. Every vote makes the election more certain. And so it's critical that we cast those votes. Do you know that African Americans voted in 2016, 28,800,000 people voted, but Blacks who did not vote, or African Americans who did not vote, were 11 million, over 11.5 million. So we have to be out there. We have to be voting. And we have the opportunity now to vote early. Jada, you want to take that?
Thank you, Bishop. We're so excited. God is always doing a new thing. Me and my friends got together and said, what can we do in this election to make sure that people are out voting early? We are 12 days from the start of early voting in Maryland, which starts on October 26th. And in fact, there are 26 states that are already early voting. So again, we asked ourselves, what can we do to help Marylanders and really your families and friends across the country to vote early in person if they have not already voted by mail-in ballot? And mail-in ballot is a good way to vote, but also with some of the rhetoric and concerns, we want to make sure that you have also a very good in-person early voting option. And so we did this new thing just 6 days ago. We launched a new website called Vote Early 2020. Vote Early 2020 is a simple tool that answers a simple question, which is, when can I vote early and what are my locations for voting early? We're going to try to demo it for you right now. VoteEarly2020.org is a website where simply in one step, with one touch, just by putting in your address, you can find out when you vote and where you can vote and the closest locations to you. So thank you, Reverend Josh. He's going to give us a location right now in the chat, and we're going to see this tool work. Reverend Joshua, would you type in 322 3rd Baxter Street, Fort Mill? There it is. Show me my early vote. And just with one click, you get all the locations near you where you can vote. And not only that, you get the times that you can vote as well. Monday through Sunday. So we want to make sure that you're getting this tool. You just simply type in your address. And I don't know about you, Bishop, but I have seen many websites where it takes me 2 and 3 and 4 clicks to find basic information. This is a simple tool in 1 click with just your address. Now, say you're from a state that has not started early voting yet. Well, we actually, again, these are my college friends and I, we actually wrote some programming around this. You will begin to populate, like Maryland, for example, early vote starting October 26th. It will be populated a day before the early voting starts in Maryland. So if you type in your local address and it doesn't tell you where, it'll tell you when, but it doesn't tell you where, just take the pledge and text your information to 336-800-VOTE, and you will get a reminder about where your locations are when early voting starts in Maryland. So if you're not able to use this yourself, what can you do with it? You can pick up the phone, call your family and friends. My mom lives in Georgia. She's already early voted using this tool. And we know that the lines in Georgia have been 10 hours long. A tool like this will help you find an early voting location. If this location doesn't work, you can go to another one. So again, Vote Early 2020. Our chat monitors are putting it in the chat for you right now. And we want you to remind yourself to get out and vote in person early if you haven't already done your mail-in ballot, which is a perfectly good way to do it. But if people are standing in lines at grocery stores, you can grab your water and your, I was about to say Walkman, but that's a little dated. But you can grab your water, get your chair, and go ahead and stand in line in Maryland starting October 26th. And this tool will help you find the locations.
And Jada, for those who might have missed it in the chat, this is on our website also, is that right?
Yes, this will be on our website right after tonight. So we want to make sure that you link to this tool. We asked ourselves, how can we make voting simple, easy, and safe? We're going to put the locations right in this website for you. And you'll also get a text reminder. And not only that, if you're on social, with like Bishop, let's say, I'm not so great, but if you're on social like Bishop, you can also share, I voted early with your friends and family around the country, and they can use this tool. So we're inviting you right now to download www.voteearly2020.us, and you'll have this tool and it will become a companion with you through the voting process. And remember, voting season is not November 3rd. Voting season is now. October is for voting. 43 states plus the District of Columbia are early voting states. And so we want to make sure that we are in that number and that all of us, no matter how we're voting, if we can vote, we are voting early this year.
Wow, this is going to be awesome. And we hope that everybody will take advantage of this tool. I mean, this is critical. Take advantage of the tool. Send it to your friends. Send it to your college friends. Send it to your neighbors. You don't have to be a member of New Psalmists to use the tools. We just want them available. And I mean, this tool works across the country. So if you know somebody in Georgia, Alabama, wherever, and they're saying to you, we don't even know where we can vote. You tell them about this tool, they type in their address, and immediately they'll find out where they can cast their vote. So I told you tonight is about process. We want to make sure that everybody is ready to vote. And Jada, I want to thank you and the team for making sure this happens. I want to thank you for making sure this happens. Now, we have some great persons on with us tonight. I mean, some great persons on with us tonight, many of whom I have known for a good while. Our county executive from Howard County, I don't think has been able to join us yet, but prayerfully he's going to be able to join us in a little bit. But we are joined by a friend of, oh God, if I say how many years, I may tell his age. The mayor of the city of Baltimore, Mayor Jack Young. We've been friends for more years than either of us cared to think. When I met him, he had hair and so did I. And we have the county executive from Baltimore County, Johnny O, with us. And he is trying his best to make a dent and a change in Baltimore County since his election, and getting out to churches and to groups and getting to know as many people as he can to make these changes. Both of them are joined by their police chief and commissioner in chief. And this is a night of unusual personalities. Anytime we have the mayor of the city of Baltimore and the commissioner of the police department of Baltimore, we have the county executive of Baltimore County and the chief of Baltimore County Police, Chief Melissa Hyatt. We will soon have the county executive of Howard County and the chief of Howard County's police, Chief Lisa Myers. I have to get all these titles correct. You know, they change by jurisdiction. I was telling Chief Myers the other day, it's hard to juggle all of the different titles that everyone has. But they readily said we would come on and share with you, because I raised the question to them that this election is different from everyone we've had in the modern era, especially since I've been voting. I cast my first ballot in 1968 while a student at the University of Maryland in College Park. And here it is, 2020, we're casting a vote. And this is different. There's a lot of things going on. The senator mentioned all of the different things. And city government and county government is thrown into a different arena this year as you monitor and try to give guidance to the election. It's different than it was 4 years ago, than it was 8 years ago. What you have to be concerned about, because now so many citizens are concerned, will my vote count? Will there be integrity in the process? Will it get through? And I know we're going to have our our person from the standards board talk a little later. Nikki Charleston's going to talk about that. But as county executives and as the mayor of the city, I know this weighs on you, making sure that the electoral process for the citizens of your municipality goes, quote unquote, according to proper plan. And so I'm going to ask you all to talk about that. And I'm going to start with the mayor of Baltimore City. I grew up in Baltimore City. So I'm going to start with the mayor of Baltimore City, Mayor Jack Young. And thank you, Mayor, for being with us tonight. Talk to us about what you're doing to make sure this election goes right for Baltimore City.
Thank you, Bishop Thomas, and good evening to everyone, all those who are live streaming to County Exec. We work so well together. All of us work well together. Our role in this election is to make sure that all of our city buildings that are in this process of with precincts are open and clean. That's our role. The other role is with the Baltimore City Board of Election to make sure that the judges are there and make sure that the election is running smoothly. Our police department will be there to make sure that people are, safe. The police department are the ones that get the ballots and bring them back to the Board of Elections so that they may be counted. So our role is really limited in how we work with our Board of Election, but we do work closely with them to make sure that all our buildings are open, clean, and that the safety of our citizens coming out to the polls is paramount, because we want people to know that they have a right to come out to vote. And we want them to make sure that as they're in line, that they are 6 feet apart, making sure that they have their face covering on, because we don't want anyone spreading the coronavirus while they're out voting. But we're going to make it as safe as possible that everyone who wants to come to vote can come and vote safely. And I do know that Camden Yards is going to be one of the sites, but they're working with the Maryland Stadium Authority to lock down all the particulars. But we want to make sure that every avenue is used for people to come out to vote.
Okay. County Exec, would you join us, County Exec?
Absolutely. Thanks, Bishop. It's great to be with everyone. Thank you, Mayor. I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy. Look, I think it's a testament to the New Psalmist family to have so many regional leaders in what you do and what the church means to Baltimore and Baltimore County in this region. Reverend Hall, thanks to you and all who are working with you to make things possible, and to all my colleagues who are on here. Just to sort of take a step back before what we're actually doing, Bishop, I mean, this is without a doubt the most important election of my lifetime. It's one of the most consequential elections ever. And as you've pointed out, we're doing it at a time, it really unprecedented scale with a global pandemic. And so we've got so much at stake in terms of an election and why it's important for people to have their voices heard, but then to make sure that we're doing it safely. And I, perhaps more than most others, can appreciate just how much every vote really matters. For those who remember, I wouldn't be county executive but for 17 votes in one of my elections. And so we really can't take any vote for granted. And we want to make sure that people can both do it safely and be ensured that they have their voices heard. So I want people to know, if you are voting in Baltimore County, just like the other jurisdictions, we are committed to ensuring that is the case. And I can give you my vote of confidence that we are doing everything possible to make sure that that's going to happen. Now, that means giving lots of options. You can vote by mail if you can, and I haven't voted yet, but I have my ballot filled out. And like you, Bishop, I'm going to finish up my plans this week as well. But you can send your ballot through the mail. We have 13 drop boxes in Baltimore County. That's going to scale up to over 25 in about 10 days. We have early voting at multiple locations, 11 early voting sites, and then we'll have 42 voting centers across Baltimore County. We're going to have social distancing ambassadors, people with PPE to give out to voters at the polling place. We're going to have people help answer questions. We're going above and beyond in prior years to ensure safety. We have additional protocols on cleaning, on social distancing, and we will make sure that people are safe. I have every confidence that we're going to have plenty of judges. We actually are doing a bonus for our judges this year to have all of our polls fully staffed up. I'm so proud of the work of our local elections board. I'm in constant communication with our police chief in terms of safety and security. I'm sure Chief Hyatt, the other chiefs and commissioners will weigh in as well. But we take this very seriously. It is a sacred right and responsibility, and all of us in local government want to partner with the congregants here and all of our residents to make sure that they have their voices heard. We're committed to doing that.
Can I, before I throw to Jada for some questions that are coming in, let me ask you this. A good many persons are nervous about the in-person voting because of COVID, because of the COVID virus. And they're worried, what will be the behavior at the poll? What is the county endorsed and the city endorsed behavior that you're calling for? How are you calling for folk to come? Will there be masks, or will there be the laxity of masks? Will there be social distancing? Will there be the laxity of social distancing? Can you all talk about that?
Well, Bishop Thomas, I know that we're asking people to come prepared with their face masks, but if not, I know we will have face masks available for them at the polls. I have to make sure that I check in with Armstead Jones to make sure that what I just said is accurate, because I know that we've been passing out, face coverings just about everywhere in the city of Baltimore.
Right.
Sometimes I stop when I'm en route to an event and hand them out the windows when I see them out there with no face covering. And I try to explain to them how important it is that they do cover their face and stay 6 feet apart instead of all of them congregating together. I do know that we're going to have hand sanitizers at all of the polling places to make sure that people are, wiping their hands and those kind of things. I really think that we're going to have this election down packed and making sure that the safety of everyone who wants to come out to vote is provided.
County Exec?
Yeah, Bishop, I think it goes back to having a plan, and whatever plan works best for each individual person and family will be different. For me, I'm likely to utilize one of our drop boxes, and just to make sure my ballot's in, that it's voted, that it's counted, and that I delivered it personally. Other people have comfort with the mail system and can mail it in. Others may choose to use the early voting centers, and others will come in person. But I can guarantee you that we will have additional personnel. In addition to the judges inside, we're actually going to have additional personnel for this election throughout the outside and the inside, enforcing social distancing. Masks are required, and if people don't have them, we absolutely will have masks. We'll have hand sanitizer. So we will ensure that every best practice, every CDC guideline will be followed, and we will be working with our police department, our public safety officials to make sure that there's an orderly and good flow. We have plenty of machines. We have plenty of election personnel. We are more than prepared for this election. We want people to have a good experience. We don't want people to be afraid. They can vote safely. Any of the methods are safe. They're effective. And if they choose to come in person, we're ready to make sure that their public safety and their public health is covered as well.
Okay. Jada, Ryan?
County executives and mayor, we're getting several questions about fraudulent drop boxes and moved drop boxes. And I know, County Executive, you just referred to the drop box system that you have in the county, but I want to ask this specific question that's coming from our community. How are the local municipalities making sure that the same thing that happened in California, which has already experienced fraudulent drop boxes, doesn't occur in your respective jurisdictions? And another question like it, I've heard rumors that ballot boxes were moved. Where can we get accurate information on drop box locations in locations around Baltimore?
And Baltimore County.
And Baltimore County.
Well, I do know that we have 32 in the city of Baltimore, and I do know that we have security, at these ballot boxes, and that's important so that people know that the integrity of the vote is going to be secured. I haven't heard of any, illegal voting booths anywhere or boxes anywhere in the city of Baltimore, and I'll check on that to make sure that that's accurate. But I do know that the 32 that we have, they have provided security around those.
Amen.
Yeah, and we've got. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go right ahead.
So we've got 13 drop boxes up since October 2nd. We'll have 30 more up by the 24th of October, in addition to the early voting sites. And we have them all under 24/7 security. So every box is monitored literally around the clock. So the security of your vote is absolutely a priority of ours at those locations. And then as it relates to finding information, I don't believe any of our boxes have changed or will change, but you can get all the locations at baltimorecountymd.gov/agencies/elections. Our elections board has all that information out there, and I can guarantee you that if there's a violation of campaign laws, we will ensure that Chief Hyatt is on there. Anyone tampering with or putting up fake boxes or trying to mess with someone's right to vote, we haven't had any issues yet, but you don't want Chief Hyatt on your case. And so if anyone's thinking about that, I recommend highly against it.
All right. Well, Jada, I'm going to go to our police chiefs and then come back with Ryan with questions that go there. Let me say to our police chiefs and Commissioner, how grateful we are that you all could be with us tonight. And normally in this environment, we might only have the election committee person sharing with us. But this is an election of monumental importance and significance. And so we felt it necessary to bring everybody on. So thank you for joining your executives and mayor to be with us tonight. But let me share with you the question that is in our community. And it is that we are concerned about what will be the climate and the environment at the polls and what can persons expect. What we know is that the older the community, the more prone it is to vote. So many of our seniors plan to, in spite of everything, make their way to a poll. either early voting or during the regular voting season. And not just seniors, but many of our family members plan to vote. But here's our concern. We've heard in the last discussions vis-a-vis debates that at the top of the ticket, there is a concern as to who will determine the legitimacy of the election. We've also heard that candidates are calling out poll watchers to be present. Now, we know that every election has poll watchers, but that term rings a special bell in our community. And it sets off an alarm for many of us, the fact that there'll be poll watchers. We also know that there's been a large surge in the buying of guns and ammunition. We do know that does not bode well. We've also heard that one of the candidates is not willing to really come out and say that there has to be absolute rejection of white supremacist groups. Coupling that with the fact that we're hearing about poll watchers, the legitimacy of the election, and then this last piece, that the National Fraternal Order of Police is unilaterally backing a candidate who might be endorsing some of these postures, sends a serious ripple through our community. And my question to you is, in your municipality, what are you doing to make sure and to ensure that there is a serious level of safety at the poll, and that if something pops off, people know what to do? Can I start with my own member, Chief Mike, Commissioner Mike?
Good evening, Bishop, and good evening to all of you. I'm honored to be with all of you tonight. It's good to see all of our county executives, certainly my mayor, and you, my pastor, and to my colleagues who I'm sure are planning and preparing just like I am. So the answer to the question is, Bishop, we heard what you heard. And we sensed and felt what all of you have sensed and felt. And now we are preparing to make sure that people can go to the polls and vote and be safe, not just be safe, but feel safe. And so just last week, I believe Chief Hyatt was with me on a call with chiefs from around the country in a dialogue about what we're doing around the country so that we can all share intelligence and share tactics that we all need to be deploying to make sure it's safe in all of our cities, so that, if something is learned one place, it's shared everywhere so that we can all be prepared. Here's what we're doing in Baltimore City, and I'll let the other chiefs speak to what they're doing, and I'm certain it's very similar. We're certainly meeting and speaking with the FBI, doing intelligence gathering every single day on what we think will happen, who we think might come, and what people are planning to do. As of now, there's no actionable intelligence in the city of Baltimore that any extremist group or any other group unnamed will come to any polls and do any harm. That doesn't mean that we're not working in the shadows. There's just no actionable intelligence that has come forward as of now. We've been planning every day. And so we have partnered with the school police, because of the 24 in-person locations we have, 20 will be at schools. So we've partnered with the school police, the Maryland Transportation Authority Police, Department of Transportation, and a number of city services to make sure we have a force multiplier with Baltimore police to have police at every location. And then we have rapid responding units that are patrolling and going from location to location while we have a small contingency at each location. Now, Bishop, what we want to do is balance that against the optic of over-policing and having too many police so that people don't feel that they're safe. They feel that they're being over-policed at a voting poll. So we have to balance that optic, that it's the right amount of police, that they feel safe, that the police officers have the proper instructions on what to do in any given scenario. We've been working with our law department to make sure all of our officers are going to be given guidance on First Amendment rights and protections, so that, you know, we can allow people to express their First Amendment right, but certainly we don't want to allow any voter intimidation to occur, and balance the two of those. And so we have plans with a mobile field force that's able to handle protests and demonstrations, that we're breaking into 6 teams to go around different parts of the city, upwards of about 75 to 100 people, in addition to a number of officers with supervisors at each of the 20 schools. And you have Camden Yards, and then you have a local church that will be a voting poll. And so we've created a contingency. We have a command center that's going to be open the day before, on that day, and every day thereafter that we think there could be issues, because obviously the election won't be decided on election day. And in that command room will be representatives from every department, city agency, and every city department, every one of our federal and state agencies, to include the FBI with this intelligence unit, so that we're scanning social media, and we have partnerships with the FBI, and we can kind of coordinate all of our efforts as one team around the protection of our 24 locations. And we have 25 drop boxes, and then we have private security at all of those. And so it's an integrated coordination between private security, local public safety, state and federal agents, to make sure that we're safe on that day and every day thereafter. So we're not just preparing for the protection of the polls, but we're preparing to be able to handle protests, demonstrations, God forbid, even riots in the city at the same time for a protracted period of time.
Amen.
So that work is ongoing, and the FBI is in the middle of it.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Chief Hyatt, can you tell us what will be happening, how you all are going to address this in Baltimore County?
Absolutely, I'm happy to, and thank you for the invitation to be here tonight. And it's great to see all of my peers and all of the leaders for our region. You know, for certain, I don't want to be redundant with a lot of the things that Commissioner Harrison has brought up, so I'm going to touch on some other things. And I will say, for our police department, we have been very carefully and thoroughly preparing for this election season. We do it every year, every time, you know, the election season comes up, to ensure that there is safe and accessible voting. And generally, our role at polling sites is traffic and parking issues that may arise at an individual site, but certainly we are similarly prepared for any issues or challenges that might arise. Some of the things that we're doing internally, we're currently reviewing applicable election laws and internal procedures with our police officers to make sure that they have the most current rules and guidance for this election season. We're doing that in conjunction with our legal department, who, once we activate our command center, will be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for consultation. In terms of the drop boxes that are present in Baltimore County, again, for us, similarly, the Board of Elections is providing security for those drop boxes, but our officers are cognizant of the locations and increasing patrols just for omnipresence. Our officers will be out checking on early voting centers, and on election day, they will be out checking polling places. We have supplemental officers, extra officers that we're deploying along with teams to have available if needed. Again, generally speaking, utilized for traffic or parking issues, but I will say we will be available. We will be deployed across the county to be utilized as needed. But we're also mindful about the fact that we have to be cognizant about the visibility of our officers, you know, in and around the polling places and the drop boxes. And we want to minimize the impact that the visualization of seeing police officers at those sites might have. You know, we certainly don't want to discourage people or intimidate people, and we want to make sure that we are supporting the right to vote. Currently, our team is tracking incidents that may occur around the country, again, working very closely with our federal and our local partners. Anything that we see that could produce some type of fear of disruption or voter intimidation, we're very focused on. Again, right now in Baltimore County, we don't have any credible threats but we are monitoring everything from any types of potential public issues to things that we're either hearing or seeing across the country. And we will collaborate very closely with our public safety partners, including two of my peers here, Commissioner Harrison and Chief Myers, in their jurisdictions. And we will direct our police officers to any incident that may arise. So really for us, it's going to be remaining vigilant, making sure that we're deployed appropriately. And I would say to all of our viewers that people can certainly call 911 if a police response is needed for any safety or protection issues at any polling sites. But I will say that if we do have police that respond, we will be sending a police supervisor to all calls to make sure that our officers have assistance and guidance handling the unique nature of polling sites. If there is something that occurs, there will be notifications that come all the way up the chain of command to me, because obviously we all know just how important and sensitive election issues can be. But I would also say when it's possible, if there are concerns about election related activity or potential interference, by reporting them promptly to the election judges, we will be in close contact with them. They will summons us if our assistance is needed, or if we needed to enforce any types of orders or directives. We're cognizant of a lot of the rules, and certainly our work will be very close with the election judges if they need us for anything during the course of the election. And I would also share the fact that for us, when we activate our command center, which is very similar to the one that Commissioner Harrison described in Baltimore City, we're going to be starting to utilize it approximately a week before the election. That way we can get into a rhythm. We'll make sure that we're monitoring anything. If there's information we need to activate it sooner, we certainly will. And, probably another important thing to say is something that our jurisdiction and really our region has been very successful with over the last few months is we know that we have a lot of individuals that are interested in planning peaceful gatherings, and our job is also to support the First Amendment rights by our residents and neighbors, and that's an important responsibility that we're proud to continue to fulfill. And we want to work with people to help support safe, peaceful events. And so if anybody is interested in something like that, all they need to do is reach out to one of our precincts, so that way we can work closely with them. So I'll just close by saying, we are available if we're called. We're happy to assist, and we stand ready to protect safety and rights of the public in Baltimore County.
I think that's critical as people are hearing that. Well, before I go to our last chief, we want to welcome to our sharing tonight the county executive from Howard County, County Executive Calvin Ball. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We are so glad to have you. And I'm going to come back to you in a minute with a question, but I'm going to jump over to the chief and ask her the same thing and let her respond to us on that one, on that question of safety.
Well, good evening, Bishop, and thank you to all of your members for inviting us here this evening. It's the downside of following two amazing chiefs and commissioners, but we are doing very similar activities. So certainly we have ensured the safety and security of our residents in all voting seasons. But unlike any other, this one is unique. So while the same in Howard County, we have no actionable intelligence that there will be any issues of concern, we always want to make sure we are prepared. So one of the things we started doing in Howard County is we started fairly early, around August, in planning for the general election, in making sure we had the appropriate staffing. We will have officers, teams of officers at all locations in patrols for security during this time of COVID, with people who are outside standing, socially distancing, making sure people are able to get in and out of election poll locations safely. We have met with our partners at the election board to talk about if issues do arise. In Howard County, our policy is if a problem or issue arises, we report that to the election judge first to give them the opportunity to resolve it. Certainly, if it is something that is criminal in nature, then we will handle those issues immediately. And as everyone talked about, our safety and security initiatives aren't just about the day of the election, but certainly right now we're doing vigilant security of the ballot boxes in the county, as well as on early voting days. We'll be providing security in the county. So one of the things that is a concern for us, certainly, and I believe the commissioner mentioned this, is if the election, the ballot counting is protracted. Certainly there could be issues, be it with protest, or there have been reports across the country in terms of violence. So we certainly want to make sure we are prepared and we are vigilant in our community to address those issues. We are prepared for the long term. It is important for our Howard County residents to know that we have strong internal policies. You had mentioned something in your opening about the National Fraternal Order of Police endorsing particular candidates. In Howard County, it is against our policy in the police department to conduct any political activity while on duty, as well as to be involved with any organizations that would provide a negative light on the police department or undermine the community's confidence. I think it's important for our residents to know that we are out there simply to keep them safe while they exercise their right to vote, and we are prepared to protect them for the duration of this election season.
Wow. I think we've learned a lot from this, and we've gotten a lot of answers on this. Let me ask this question. It's kind of a technical question, and I'm kind of nervous throwing it out. In Baltimore County, in Howard County, in Baltimore City, is it against the law to do voter intimidation? Is that a crime in the county and in the city? Chiefs?
I'll take a stab at it. I think it is. It certainly is a crime and is a federal crime for voter intimidation, because although there are state laws and local laws, this is a national election. This is not just a local election. So things like carrying, even in open carry states where residents and citizens are allowed to openly carry firearms, it is prohibited within a certain proximity of a voting place because that constitutes voter intimidation. So other than that, in addition to that, there are other things that would constitute a violation of law when it comes to voter intimidation that very well could be federal crimes. And that's why we have been partnering with the FBI, and the FBI is certainly not unique to Baltimore, but even with Howard and Baltimore County, will be actively involved in making sure we identify people who are extremists or domestic terrorists or any unnamed group who would show up at a voting poll to participate in any kind of voter intimidation. Certainly, once again, all of us are going to have high levels of visibility, but a balanced level of visibility at each of those polling places to make sure that we can prevent that.
So it is not a permissible behavior to come to the polls with rifles and guns.
As I've learned, that is not authorized at a voting location. Although the state may be an open carry state or jurisdiction may be an open carry jurisdiction, it's not permissible during voting season at a voting place.
Okay.
And if I can just add one point in reference to a lot of these laws and these really specific components for the polls, we're working very closely with our state's attorney's office to make sure that we are aligned with what some of these infractions are. And certainly if we have a situation, and I know my partners probably as well, we're going to be working very closely with them to make sure that we understand exactly what we have and that we handle it properly.
Right. And so you all I assume are doing ongoing training with your officers, preparing them for this experience.
Absolutely. And what Chief Holly said is so critically important, because while it may not be lawful to carry a firearm at a polling place, there is going to be some kind of, what is the distance? At what distance away is it lawful? And then when people are at that location, is it then lawful? What do we do then? And how do we respond then, where they're following the law, but they're still participating in voter intimidation, but from a distance, a legal distance. And so those are things that the attorneys have to give us guidance on. Good point.
I got you. But you all are preparing your officers for this unique experience. I think that's one of the things that's critical. That Ryan, do you have any questions coming in?
Yeah, so there are 2 questions related to the handling and the submission of mail-in ballots. The first is, if a constituent has ordered a mail-in ballot, but then decides to go in person, can the person take that ballot to the polls? And the second is a constituent able to drop a ballot off in a ballot box that is not located in their municipality?
I'm going to save the first question for a little later when we get to Nikki. She now knows to hammer that one. But that's a good question on the second one. If I live in Baltimore County, can I drop my ballot in a Baltimore City box or a Howard County box? I'll ask the county execs to join us on that. Mayor, you have to unmute.
All right, in Baltimore City, only ballots for Baltimore City can be dropped off in Baltimore City. Can you imagine the chaos that would happen if you could drop your ballot in any jurisdiction? I mean, it would be totally chaos. So I know in Baltimore City, only Baltimore City voters can drop their ballots in our ballot boxes, which are secured by 24-hour security.
Is that the same for the counties? Johnny O?
Bishop, I'm be honest, when I don't know for sure, I will admit as such. I think the best practice is to ensure that you deliver your ballots within your jurisdiction.
Okay.
And in addition to the securities we have, we do empty ours out twice a day. But I think in terms of that question, I would definitely endeavor to have it delivered within your jurisdiction of residence.
Yeah, I'd agree with County Executive Olszewski.
Well, then let me pose this next question to our county executive from Howard County, who's on with us now, because I think we didn't get a chance to ask him this one in the first round. County Exec Ball, Howard County is a great county, and just as Baltimore County and Baltimore City, and many of our people are concerned and wondering about the election, about its integrity. Will they be safe? Is there ample spreading out of resources? Is there ample coverage? Is there a work to suppress their vote? Is there a work to keep it going? Can you talk something about the process that is going to be in play in Howard County? The drop boxes, are they secure? Do we have to worry about anything? And really also, there's a lot on the ballot. How does one really begin to master that up and down on that ballot?
So first of all, I just want to take a moment to thank you, Bishop, and everyone who's tuning in this evening. The church has a history of empowering and educating our community. And now more than ever, it is critical that we participate in the vote and ensure that our voice is being heard. And that is why we have worked day and night to ensure that we not only have drop boxes available, but they are going to be safe and secure. And we know that the more people try to take something away, oftentimes the more valuable it is. And this election is the most critical, important election of our lifetimes. And in your question, you talked about the importance of the entirety of the ballot. Yes, many people will come out when it comes to the presidential election or Congress, but it is so important to vote all the way down on the ballot. There will be decisions made for boards of education, for judicial nominations. So please continue to vote. Oftentimes, if people are unclear, the League of Women Voters often has a nonpartisan, non-biased evaluation of various ballot initiatives. You can sometimes go to not only your Board of Election, but your local county council will oftentimes have what sort of ballot initiatives and a clear way of explaining them, or just call somebody who you trust and talk it through. But you need to make sure that your voice is heard and that your vote is counted. Right now, we know that there is voter intimidation. Sometimes it's a little bit more subtle. Sometimes it's via social media. Sometimes it is just trying to give people inaccurate information. We will persevere. We will ensure in Howard County, and I know the mayor and our other county executives know throughout the state of Maryland, that our votes will be counted and we will stand up and speak up for our constituents.
Wow. This is going to be the challenge of the ages. My heart goes out for each of you because your assignment is beyond what we could even imagine. I think, Jada, are we going to make sure we have that League of Women Voters web address in the site? Because I know persons want to know, and I guess this is true in our other municipalities. That site will carry information that will help people know the issues in your districts, in your municipalities, and hopefully some of the candidates that are running. But we want to make sure we put all of that in the chat so that persons can cut and paste. Now, brothers and sisters, all of you who are watching, when you see some good websites that you need to follow, just cut and paste them, cut them out and paste them on a note, and then have all these voter notes all in one place. I'm sure we're getting questions in from the floor. But JD, you might have a question for County Exec Ball before we move to the general questions from folk.
We just have a couple of questions coming in about ballots and the drop boxes. So how often are the drop boxes being emptied, and are they fireproof?
Oh, now that's a good question. Let me see. Municipal leaders, we will leave that one to you all. And if you have to go
Our
back
people
and
are
find out, if you
serious.
have to go back and find out, it's all right with us. We're glad we raised that question.
Be prepared for anything.
Yeah.
Well, we have 24-hour security in Baltimore City, and also I know the commissioner can speak to this. Our police officers are doing similar what they're doing in Baltimore County, probably in Howard County, and they're paying close attention. And I do know that the ballots are emptied every day.
All right. All right.
Yeah, and I'll just, my chief has given me the word that the mayor was correct, that you have to vote in your jurisdiction. We clean ours out, or we empty ours out twice a day. There is 24-hour security. Our police and fire are always on standby. So I think we'd stamp anything out before it happened, but we will find out if they're fireproof, just in case as a fail-safe, and get back to all the listeners out there. Bishop, if I could add one more thing, I wanted to mention, this gets to, I think, the impact of elections, and that elections matter, but they also are the consequences are real and they're tomorrow. So the Supreme Court just came down and put a stop to all canvassing of the U.S. Census. And so, speaking of being counted, the census really impacts apportionment and how many people are represented within a given jurisdiction, within a given community. It's really big on resources. So tomorrow is the last day that the field counting is going to count. So if you have not filled out your census, any friends, family, neighbors, tomorrow is currently the last day as determined by the Supreme Court, and it relates very much to voting. So I thought it was on my heart and wanted to make sure I shared that tonight as well.
Does that mean that person should go to a website? Folks should fill out a piece of paper? Folks should wait for somebody to come to their door? What should they do by tomorrow?
So there's I think our team is working with yours to make sure that there's information on the chat box. We will get the census website information out. The canvassing and I think the counting will stop tomorrow. So the best bet is to go online, make sure you've been registered, and put in your information to be counted in the census.
Okay.
Hey, Bishop, before
Yep.
County Executive Calvin Ball speak, I just got word that our ballot boxes are fireproof. So I guess it's countywide. They're fireproof.
All right. Listen, I want you to know, County Executive Ball, just smile. County Executive, it's on you.
Yeah, so ours are emptied twice a day. And I would guess also that, like the mayor, ours are fireproof. And I would just also want to underscore what County Executive Olszewski said. Please, if you haven't already, fill out your census. It takes about 5 minutes. That is federal funding for our schools, for our roads, and so many things that are germane to our quality of life and us building the best future for our families.
And that's really not an issue of citizenship. It's really an issue of who uses the services of a state, correct? And so that the federal government can apportion money and votes appropriate for the amount of usage of resources and things that your municipality is getting. Am I right on that?
I'm glad you brought that up, because there was a movement from the Trump administration to try to only focus on citizenship. And I actually worked with our legal team to have an amicus brief to sue the Trump administration. And we were successful in ensuring that even if you aren't a citizen, if you are a resident, as per the Constitution, you are to be counted. And so, yes, please, if you are living in Maryland, in any of our jurisdictions, please ensure that your census is filled out. Take about 5 minutes.
All right.
Just 10 questions.
Ryan, Jada, Ryan, you want to jump with a question now? Now we open up to, before we go to Nikki, and then we're anything on the municipalities and on the policing side. We're going to get to the specifics of voting right in the next little piece.
And that's great, because there's a lot of questions coming in that are applicable to Nikki Charleston, so that'll be great. There's a question here: are election judges still needed, and if so, how should one apply?
Well, as far as I know, we have ample enough election judges. But as you know, some judges get sick at the last minute. Some of them come and they don't stay. So if anyone is interested in being an election judge, all they have to do is call the election board. I'm quite sure we will have judges on standby for those emergencies that might take place.
In the counties, do you still need them?
Similar to the mayor, I think we have enough. However, people do get sick, and frankly, people get scared. You know, as has been noted astutely, we are still in the middle of a global pandemic. And so at any point between now and November 3rd, there could be more fear, more anxiety out there. We will take all of the appropriate precautions when it comes to personal protective equipment, physical distancing, hand sanitizer. However, if there is a rise in our cases or positivity rate, there could be a number of judges who decide not to participate, particularly since most election judges in recent times have been our older adults, our retirees, who are oftentimes more susceptible to the ravages of COVID-19. And unfortunately, people of color are more susceptible. So we do have some on standby, but again, call our Board of Elections and they will walk you through the process if you haven't already gotten into the queue.
Okay. County Exec, Baltimore County.
Same answer, but if anyone wants to volunteer and check with our board, either if circumstances change or to learn more about the next election cycle, they can call our Board of Elections at 410-887-0982 to be an election judge. So we have the numbers, but if that changes or if there's interest in a future election, 887-0982.
Jada, you have one?
Nope, I'm ready to, let's shift to, is it okay to shift to Ms. Charleston?
Yes.
Great, wonderful. So
I'm
Ms.
a
Charleston,
producer.
yes, so Ms. Charleston, everyone, we're excited to have her. She is an expert in all things election. She has written voter policy, and she has implemented the federal requirements of the America Vote Act of 2002. She's been involved in the implementation of a new voting system in Maryland, and she's been instrumental in policies related to same-day registration and address changes. So she knows it all. And Ms. Charleston, there are three big questions and a lot of little questions that we have. One related to rejected ballots, the second one related to provisional ballots. And then we want to talk a bit about seniors and how they can get assistance at the polls from standing in long lines. So let's talk about rejected ballots for a moment. We know in some states, particularly first-time voters or African-American voters, their ballots can be rejected at multiples of other folks who vote. Can you talk about what are the specifics and details that we need to remember when we're filling out a mail-in ballot so that there is zero chance that our ballot will be rejected?
Great. Well, first, I'd like to thank you very much for including me on today's panel. I represent one of hundreds of local and state election officials that have been working very hard to deliver this election season. I love that phrase because it is an election season. And you are fortunate that you have three county and municipal leaders here who really are huge advocates of their local boards of elections and really are a role model that I hope the rest of the state and country can follow in supporting the local election officials. Maryland in many ways has a very low rejection rate for mail-in votes. So right, when we talk about mail-in votes, and if I slip in absentee, it's just because old habits die hard. But I think that that's an important distinction that doesn't matter anymore. An absentee ballot is a mail-in ballot. We've heard about those words being used nationally and meaning different things. In Maryland, they mean the same thing. So if I say absentee, I mean mail-in. I'm just trying to reprogram my brain like everybody else. So most of our ballots are counted. It's over 97% of our ballots are counted, mail-in ballots. And that's consistent over time. And I think that's really important because our June election was 97% by mail, right? We had almost everybody voted by mail and our rejection rate stayed the same, which was really encouraging because we had hundreds of thousands of voters who had never voted by mail before, and we didn't see an uptick in the rejection reasons. So to your point is what do we do to make sure our ballot's not rejected? Two super important things. The most common reason by far a mail-in ballot is rejected is because it's late. So you all talked early, make a plan, make a plan. That is what we are saying, make a plan and do it early. Whether you decide to vote in person, vote early. If you're going to vote by mail, get your request in so we can get your ballot so you can get your ballot in on time. So the deadline to submit your ballot, if you're going to use a ballot drop-off, it's pretty easy. It's 8 p.m. on election day. They're open 24/7 until 8 p.m. on election day. If you're going to return it by mail, it comes with a postage paid envelope. So there's no postage, but it must be postmarked on or before November 3rd. And so it's that postmark that I think is the biggest problem is that I put it in my mailbox at 3:30, but my local mail person has already picked up the mail for the day. That is going to be late. So super important that if you're going to mail it back, mail it as soon as it's done. Don't wait, leave it on the counter. Just make sure it's getting postmarked on or before November 3rd. And that's something like 80% of our ballots are rejected for that reason. So if you get it in on time, you're good. The second most common reason, but it's much less frequent, is that the voter doesn't sign the oath that's on the back of the envelope. The local boards of elections are reaching out to voters to say, we got your ballot and you didn't sign it. Can we figure out a way so you can sign that oath? They're working very hard to do that, but you can prevent that extra step by making sure that you sign the oath on the back of the envelope. So two simple things, voting by mail, get it in on time and sign that oath. And then your odds of it being rejected are almost nil.
Nikki, let me stay with you for a minute. We've heard that if you sign with a blue ink pen versus a black ink pen, does the color of the ink matter?
It does not. It makes no difference whatsoever. We do ask that voters use a black pen for the ballot, but that's just because if you use a pink pen, the machine won't be able to read it and someone will have to copy it. It will still count. So using the wrong color pen or using a pencil does not mean it's going to be rejected. It just means it might have to be copied because the scanner can't pick up the color.
And what if I sign with my fancy flourish kind of signature with little hearts and all of that?
Well, by all means, sign with flourish. It means you've signed the oath, which makes us happy. As long as it's signed, it's okay. We are looking for a signature. We are not comparing it to your driver's license or maybe the scribble that you do on your credit card that we all sort of don't make it look like ours. We're just looking for a signature. So just please sign, flourish, and all is great.
Okay, let's talk about provisional ballots and really within the context of if I already ordered my mail-in ballot like I did, but now I decide I want to show up to the poll and I want to vote early in person. What happens? How do I make sure, because we know it's illegal to vote twice, how do I make sure my vote is counted? And when does my vote get counted if I already ordered a mail-in ballot?
So when you go to vote in person, and we're getting this question a lot, so I'm really grateful for the opportunity to hopefully answer it well, that you can go and vote in person, but you will, as you noted, have to vote a provisional. And that's a safeguard that is a provisional ballot, sorry. That is a safeguard that is in place to make sure that we're only going to count one ballot from you. We don't know at this point, whatever day you vote, whether you've returned that ballot because there's still time to return it. And so that's why you would have to vote a provisional ballot. It'll just take you a little bit longer because there's a form to fill and your ballot won't be counted that day. We're going to take it back. Your local election official is going to do the research, make sure they don't have an mail-in ballot from you. And if there's no mail-in ballot, then your provisional will count. And I appreciate that people think of it as a less important ballot, perhaps because it's counted after Election Day. And I'd like to address that because in Maryland, we always count ballots after Election Day. Election Day is just the start now of a longer election season, right? So we think of election season maybe as early voting and in person, but for election officials, it goes on for 10 more days. We are still counting ballots. So the fact that your ballot is not counted until after Election Day doesn't make it any less of a ballot. For us, it's about well, now for this election, it's a 45-day counting process. And we will count every ballot that we can for as long as it takes us to count. So I just don't want people to think that it's a second-class ballot. It's as equal of a ballot as any other ballot cast.
What should I expect to see if I did send my mail-in ballot? Many of us in our community are getting back, we've received your ballot. How do we know if received means thumbs up?
So received is the first really important step. That means it's timely, right? If you haven't signed your oath, you'll hear from your election official.
And I'll get another chance if I didn't sign it?
Yep. If you didn't sign it, you'll get another chance to sign it. So as we move through the next couple weeks of counting ballots, our website, which is elections.maryland.gov, you can use our voter lookup to show that your ballot has changed now from received to accepted or rejected, and if it's rejected, why. So again, it will just, as we move through this process over the next couple of weeks, that received status will change to accepted, hopefully, and for a small number of people rejected, but we'll explain why. We'll tell you why it was rejected. But again, at this point, timeliness is not an issue. Every ballot coming back is timely. And of course, if you haven't signed the oath, someone will reach out to you and let you know.
Great. One other question, I'll turn it over to Ryan for the questions that I think he had as well. Want to talk about seniors. We have many seniors who cannot stand on long lines. How can they get help when they get to the poll?
So if they've chosen to vote in person, which of course they could choose to vote by mail and have the ballot mailed to them at whatever residence or wherever they would like to receive it, and anybody can help them. So when they're voting the ballot, in with the ballot comes a form called a certificate of assistance. So whoever's helping would just fill that out and send it back. And that's perfectly okay. I know your question was that in person, but I wanted to share that there is a way to get help by mail as well. So there are election judges at those voting locations that can help the voter in whatever way the voter needs assistance. The voter can bring somebody in to help them if that's their preference. They'd rather have a family member help than an election judge. It's perfectly okay. If they are unable to stand in line, that's really where it gets to make a plan and execute it early, so that if you get there and it's a long line, maybe try the next day or try earlier in the day. You know, you have more options the more days you give yourself to vote. But every voting location will have a way to have a placeholder and chairs for someone to wait while they are waiting for their spot at the check-in station. So there will be chairs available to voters who need to sit down and wait rather than stand in line. But again, I think it gets back to what you said, make a plan. It gives you lots of options then as to how you can execute your vote this year.
And can my friends be part of my plan if, for example, I cannot take my own ballot to a drop-off location, for example? Can I grab 2 or 3 of the ballots from the family members in my house or my coworkers or whatever, or my church? Can I take 100 ballots and drop them off?
Yes, you can drop them off either at a ballot drop-off box, or you can take them directly to your local board of elections. But I would just try to contact your local board first, just to make sure that they aren't by appointment only, and they are trying to keep their staff and the public safe as well. But you can do that.
Great.
A question, Jada, with the drop boxes, do you just take, say we did that at church and persons hooked up with people and they got a lot of ballots to go, would they take them to a drop box and just drop them in the drop box? Nikki, is that what would happen?
Yes, right. That's what would happen, is you would just take it to, there are lots of drop boxes that are throughout the 3 counties and throughout the state, with more coming this week. And then, as County Executive Olszewski said, later in October, you would just take them to a ballot drop-off box and drop them in, or again, take them to your local board of elections.
Now, some persons had in the chat that they requested a ballot early, but they haven't gotten it yet. Is that appropriate, or should they have gotten them by now?
Yeah, I would have thought so. We've been mailing, we are mailing ballots. We all, for a long time, they sit in a queue, right? And then when we're ready, we did our first mailing September 24th, and then have pretty much been mailing every day since. So the person should reach out to either the state board of elections, which is where I work, or the local board of elections, and we can figure out what's happened. Because if they've asked for it that long ago, they should have it. I mean, if they asked for it a week ago, it's probably on a mail truck somewhere, or coming here. But if it's been more than a week, it should be here by now.
Okay.
You all have actually covered all of the questions that were on the sheet that came in. So great. Thank you so much, Ms. Charleston, for answering those questions.
Of course.
Well, let me see. Do we have, we're just so grateful to have you all on tonight, and to talk about this. And I think I took a moment just to look on the chat, and people are just excited about the information and thankful that they're clearing up a lot of issues. I think this is really critical, because now folk know what to do. This is going to live. I think Reverend Joshua's informed me, this is going to live on our YouTube channel. It'll be living on our Facebook page, so persons can go to it and watch it and continue to see it. We can recommend it to our friends and others, and they can get a handle on it. So we are eternally grateful for this. Before we close out, I would just ask, is there any word that any one of you would like to share before we get near the end, before we get ready to close out? And Jada, you'll tell us about the close, but is there anything any one of you you say to yourself, there's something I wanted to say and I may have missed.
Well, I wanted to make a correction. I just got an inbox from Armstead that we still need judges. Some of our most experienced judges have, dropped off. So the more, the merrier, and they can call the local election board in Baltimore City. And I just want to thank you, Bishop Thomas, for putting this on. This is very important that our citizens know that we take this election very seriously, like we take any election. And we want to make sure that they know that their safety is paramount for us. We're going to make sure that we have hand sanitizers, face masks for those who show up without face masks. And we're going to make sure that our people get to the polls that want to go to the polls. But I'm encouraging everyone, if you can do your drop-off ballots to one of the ballot boxes, that will be the best thing for you to do, so you can afford any coronavirus-related, illness being in line with some people who might not want to do social distancing, who wants to be close to people, and those kind of things. I'm going to make sure that I ride around to some of the polls and make sure that people are social distancing and that they're getting in and voting like they should and be well protected. So, and thank all of the county executives for being on this call as well, our police chiefs and our commissioner, because their job is a tough one with this defund the police movement that's across the country. I want them to know that I support them 100%, especially the ones that's doing it the right way, and hopeful that these new recruits that we're bringing on board clearly understand constitutional policing and making sure that they not violate the rights of our citizens. So with that, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. County Exec Ball.
I want to echo Mayor Young's comments. I want to thank our esteemed panel. Really want to thank you, Bishop, for doing this. It would have been easy in a time of COVID to say it was too hard to do virtually, but you all overcame to again empower our community. This vote is critically important. I want to reiterate, please vote all the way down the ballot. And for those of you who think that your vote doesn't count, your vote counts, your vote matters, you matter. And I want to just end with something that I think the late, great friend, mentor, and Congressman Elijah Cummings would sometimes say, tell Lottie, Dottie, and everybody, go out, vote, make your voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you. County Exec Baltimore, Johnny O, we can't leave you out of saying something there.
Just again, thanks.
I got three preachers on here.
Yeah, thanks to you, Bishop, and everyone at New Psalmist for putting this together. Thanks to everyone for participating. Thanks for the engagement of the congregation, but also thanks for the prayers, because more than anything, our country needs prayer. Prayer for our leaders, prayer for this election, prayer for our transition, prayers for those who are administering our elections, that there's discernment and that there's wisdom and that, there's virtue and that people do the right thing so that at the end of this, we all come out and we are a United States of America. So thank you for leading by example, even in starting this. So it's been a real honor to join.
Well, one of the things we think can grow out of this is that we will be able, I hope, in the future, because the election is helping us to frame and understand much of the misunderstanding that exists between communities or in communities, and the struggle and the strife that many community members and law enforcement have to face. But I think the election gives us a context, and our sharing tonight creates a door and creates an opportunity for us to come together at another time and discuss how we can better harmonize and bring into a better relationship what happens in government and what happens in community. And I look forward to our team being able to call on you again to engage that conversation when we get past this one that helps us to clear our glasses to see clearly what the issues are. And so I just want to thank you. And Nikki, we can't thank you enough. You have answered our technical questions, which we knew what about. Jada, final word to you.
Well, Bishop, have you made your decision about how you're going to vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, listen, I have to say this. My wife and I are a team. She is sitting here with me, though not on the screen.
Yay.
I would not dare to say I am making this decision. Mr. Mayor, will you back me up? I would
I
not
will
dare
back you
to
up.
say
Yes, I will.
I am making this decision unilaterally.
You're going to do exactly what the first lady tells you to do.
Yeah, we are a team. She is just in front.
Wonderful. Well, we just want to leave you with our call to action. And Bishop, let me know if you want to come in now. But we really want everyone, take out your phone. We're going to, as Bishop said, we're going to have this on our website. Send this out to your family and friends across the nation. We're just not, tonight was not just about Baltimore City or Baltimore County or Howard County. It was about America. And so we need this information to go out to Americans all across the United States. And we want to make sure that we especially talk to our Black men, our young people, and our Divine Nine ministries. When you go to the polls or however you plan to vote, take pictures. If you, in fact, there's a prize here, if you will follow or Bishop, what is the words? This is how bad I am on social media. If you will tag New Psalmist, okay, for the 3 people that you send a picture of yourself voting, however you do it, tag New Psalmist, the first 10 people who tag New Psalmist for 3 people that they are sending this information out to, we're going to send you a special prize. So I think I got that right. If you tag New Psalmist, that you've sent.
I think so, Jada. I'm waiting on Joshua to tell me, no, you're wrong. And he didn't tell me, no, you're wrong.
You got it right. You got it right.
Oh my gosh. Wonderful. But Bishop, would you like to say anything in particular to our young people, our Black men and
Yes.
Divine Nine?
I want to close with this note to our young men and our men and our young people. I was 18 when I cast my first vote. And I remember how special a moment it was for me. For in many ways, I was taking my place in society. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. died in 1968. And it was my first time to be able to vote. And I got a chance to feel as if I was paying on a debt that I owed somebody who opened up a door. And to my younger friends who are now in the ages that I see only in the rearview mirror, I ask you and implore you to remember all of those who made this day possible and to make your voice known. This is not just honoring yesterday. You have a right to today and tomorrow. And I implore you to let your voice be heard about what you think ought to be the direction of both the country, the state, and your municipality. To our men, we must lead. We must lead. I've been on this kick all this year. Men, brothers, we've got to show our families, our friends, that this is not something we take lightly. We have asked to be leaders. We have wanted others to see us as leaders. We have hated it when folk have relegated us to some backseat position, when we have felt we had leadership potential and inspiration in us. Now I ask you to honor it, to let people come to the polls and see you standing there with your head high in or out of rain, in cold weather or without, and for long amounts of hours. Let them see what you're made of. That God has brought us to this moment for such a time as this. And this is the hour we show people that we are not just saying we are leaders, we are leaders.
Amen. If you have any other feedback for us, we're asking you to email us at the church at amen@newpsalmist.org. Let us know how we did tonight, and we're going to have future town halls. So we really appreciate your feedback. amen@newpsalmist.org. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
You all take care now.